There are times when prayer, that is, talking with God, flows from us easily. We know exactly what's on our hearts and exactly what we want to say to God. But far more often, there are moments when we simply don't have the words or the wherewithal to pray. Maybe the situation is too complicated. Perhaps the pain is too deep. Maybe we're confused about what God is doing, or we are at a loss about what we should even ask of him. Romans chapter 8 tells us that even and especially in those moments, we are not alone. Paul writes this, "In the same way the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans." Now that phrase at the beginning, "in the same way," connects this promise with everything Paul's been talking about in Romans 8. Creation is groaning as it waits for redemption. We groan inwardly as we wait for the redemption of our bodies. And now Paul tells us that in the middle of all that groaning, the Holy Spirit meets us in our weakness. Notice that Paul doesn't say the Spirit removes our weakness. He says the Spirit helps us in our weakness. And one of our weaknesses is surprisingly simple. Sometimes we just don't know what to pray. We see only part of a situation in our life. We certainly do not know what the future holds. We don't always understand what God is doing. We may desperately want one outcome when it seems abundantly clear that God in his wisdom knows that a better one is what we should have. So the Spirit knows. And that's why Paul continues when he says, "And he, the Spirit, searches our hearts and knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God." Now, so think about what that means. When you or I, when we cannot find the words, the Spirit is at work. When all you can manage is a sigh or a cry or a whisper, the Spirit knows the depths of your heart better than even you do. And he brings your need before the Father perfectly, all in complete harmony with God's will. Our prayers do not depend on our ability to pray perfectly, but on God's grace and goodness. Now, that doesn't mean prayer is unimportant or meaningless. Instead, it means we can pray with confidence even when we are confused, or weary, or uncertain. We don't have to have everything figured out before we come to God. So when you don't know what to pray, pray anyway. Bring God your confusion. Bring him your questions. Bring him your fears. Bring him your desires that you aren't even you're sure are right. And when your words fail, simply bring yourself before him. Because one of the great comforts of Romans 8 is this: even when you don't know what to pray, the Spirit knows exactly what you need. And in your weakness, the Holy Spirit is already helping you and helping you to pray. I'll see you next time.